All right, I want to roll up my sleeves for this one. We're here to talk about now sort of the process of marketing your home once we've gone live and out into the world. And what we're talking about is about 5 or so discrete stages or elements of the process. Creating a visual show or experience for the public, activating channels through which we're distributing that show, that information, the publicity, the imagery, the experience to the public. Then the public is then now interacting with your property, and there's a user experience that we're monitoring. We're trying to understand exactly how the market in fact is reacting to a home that we thought that they'd react to a particular way. Well, now we're starting to really learn. The negotiating dynamics that are starting to emerge as we figure out just how much leverage we have against the public or any individual who may want to attempt to buy your house or flirt with us about the idea of doing so. And very, very importantly, staying in touch with you about all of the above. So in terms of creating that visual show or experience, if you've spoken with us in the past, seen any of our videos, you know that the visual piece is hugely important. I like to say sometimes I'm a movie maker. But by the time we've launched, we've got a sense of what that movie looks like, what the highlights are, who the stars are, which room, which photograph of our show are. And now we're trying to pump that information through channels. And they're traditional channels like print, to include a postcard to your neighborhood. The internet, of course, through huge channels like the MLS and Zillow, where we pay additional money for advertising. Many agents put your place up on Zillow, but don't actually pay Zillow to prioritize and get more eyeballs on your place. It ain't democratic, people. You can buy your way to the top, and you should be doing so. If you have the option, why wouldn't you do that? Would you like to have fewer sort of weapons in your arsenal than the next guy? I don't know why you do that. And so you've got to figure out which paid channels make sense. Increasingly, we're figuring out ways to spend money. There are free ways to publicize on social media, but increasingly we're figuring out ways to buy attention as well through social media platforms. And depending on the demographic you anticipate is going to approach the home, you might want to focus on X, Y, or Z social media channel. And then, of course, now once the distribution of that preview, if you will, is getting out there through those channels, people are starting to come and rate your movie, your house. We're interacting with people through little polling devices that we can send them through email. And we are also calling them. Occasionally we have a chance to physically interact with them, like at an open house. How did you feel about this one? We don't want to be too pushy. No one wants a salesman right up in their face, but just reasonably approaching people and trying to get some input that way. So that now the feedback loop is being created, and we're getting a sense of how the public actually feels about your house, what its strengths are. Every house, might have a weakness. How much emphasis within the user experience does that weakness actually have, or does that strength actually have? It's one thing to project and speculate pre-marketing, pre-launch. It's another thing to actually start to measure these inputs as they come back to you through that feedback loop. And then, of course, now you're getting a sense of where you stand and what the negotiating dynamic is. Do I have a ton of leverage, or am I a little bit, less well positioned to just get a gazillion-dollar offer, yesterday on my house, and that's very, very important now as we interact with the public. It's my job not to give important secrets away. You're never going to hear me as your representative speak to somebody else saying, "Oh my God, we're desperate. Please send us anything." Of course not. That makes there are people who do that. Okay, there literally are. I've been the buyer agent on the other end of that call, and I'm just really happy for my client that I'm getting such insight, but I'm just aghast. I can't believe that people speak that way. They have no sense of their duties to their clients. But let's just say that things are not going swimmingly. I need to do what I can to guide someone into the situation and attract them through information and follow up and whatever I can say. So you're trying to strike a balance, not to overplay your hand at any given moment. Likewise, I mean, if there's a ton of interest in the house, you could really be overdoing it by saying, oh yeah, we're going to get 1 million offers, and then the people recoil, it backfires, and they'll go, oh, it's too competitive, I'm out. That has happened. That could happen. So you're trying to understand the negotiating dynamic with the public as a whole, and then with any individual who approaches you or group that approaches you. Let's say if you have an offer deadline with multiple offers, which of course is happening increasingly in this low inventory environment. And then the fifth and perhaps most important stage is staying in touch with you about what's happening, because the longer I do this, the more I realize that it's sort of unnerving. For my seller clients to have the public just coming through their home and scrutinizing it, and if you're not receiving input or information about what's actually happening on the ground as people come into your sanctuary on the daily, and they're poking and prodding, then it can be very unnerving. So keeping you informed of what's going on, and very importantly, when we get down to stage 4, that negotiating dynamic, sort of where it looks like this thing is headed, and if necessary, what adjustments need to be made. At the end of the day, it's a little bit like an experiment that has elements, and you're probing and testing for how we're doing, on the location, the strengths, the weaknesses, the price, the overall market dynamic, and potentially you're playing with a variable or another, potentially to even include shifting your marketing strategy, realizing, there's a strength I should emphasize even more because the public's really responding to it. That sunroom just has people over the moon. Let's just lead with the photo of the sunroom. So you're tweaking as necessary. There is a whole lot that goes into proactively marketing. That's really what I'm trying to describe. It's not like press a button and sit around. There are people who do that, but what I think what we're trying to do is to very proactively look at all of these stages and elements again and again and again until we get the result. Constantly revisiting and probing and testing for these variables. Potentially suggesting tweaks, staying in touch with you, and ultimately getting it sold for top dollar, which is usually what happens.